Today I'll be sparring with some special people, people who are very skilled. They're better than me. They're a higher rank. These two are blue cords, and I am a green cord. They're one step up. I'll call the one on the left Ghost, and the one on the right in blue, that'll be Blue. Very simple. Blue and Ghost are both very interesting fighters who are very skilled, and I can't wait to fight them. I love fighting them. I've been fighting them a lot. They started at the same time I did, so on guard.
Here you'll see me try to provoke him from moving away from my sword by covering his. He goes around, which is what I want. We're going a little slow. Hard to see what happens here. He cuts the side of my head. I think he double cuts the same side when I expect him to go the other way. Coming up, you'll see him hit me. I just defend it wrong. I go into a finesse or stab when I should have gone into a cut.
Coming up, I'll approach, he'll Cavichon, he'll go under and disengage and try to attack me. And then when he goes to the other side after I defeat that, I'm going to try and counter cut him, but I'm not going to step off here. And I get hit. And because I didn't take a large step to the right, I just get hit anyway. He likes to go to the other side as well. He's very forward motivated, and he's good at hitting arms. You can see he strikes my hands there. It looks like he blows through and cuts my hands here, but I don't feel it, so maybe it didn't hit. Cover the line and divert his attacks. And then I yield and cut wrong, and I kind of just guide his sword into me. But I did get a decent hit. His was just my being bad. I can't tell who's saying hit here. I think it's me. I think he manages to cut through and catch my arm. Coming up, Ghost will get a really nice snipe on the arm and then yield and escape. He does this by sort of convincing Blue to get his point out and to engage with his sword, and then using that to strike his hands. Coming up, there. I get hit with one of these later as well. Nothing like a straight punch. Man, that's rough. Classic double coming up. Both parties are just gonna try to undercut each other's cut. They'll hit each other's arms. Sad. Here my opponent is going to try and bait me coming up. He's going to pull back at a sort of lean and then try to thrust forward. I'm going to catch it, and then I'm going to try and go under to cut his hand. I'm expecting a cut from the same side. But instead, he goes to the other side. We trade, but I get there early, but honestly, I would call it a trade. Coming up, I'm just going to cover his cut. My opponent is going to do everything he can to get around my sword, and I'm just going to cut his arm and leave. This is going to be just a lot of me trying to make sure my opponent doesn't get it on. I'm covering a lot, and I'm refusing to let him pass my line. Eventually, he's going to false edge thrust into me here, which ignores line control. C'est la vie.
Alright, I'm implementing 2 rules for y'all. The same 2 rules that I use. If you get a hand hit, make sure that you are, if you hit the hand, try to follow up with a strike to the arm's body. Like, make sure that you're following up with those hand hits, because I've seen a lot of like hand hit. And this is the second rule. Do not indicate that you have been hit, or rather, say hit, but don't start like pointing it out or saying what it was until you have broken mechanism. Because there's a lot of, I've been hit in the hand, oh, hit, fight stops, we reset. Properly be like, hit, disengage. Until you disengage, the fight is still on, don't indicate, just, or like, don't indicate, just verbalize, and if a hand strike is being set, you hit, say that you hit the hand, but try to make sure that you're following that. Just so we're not just like hitting hand and then you're like, oh yeah, that's good.
This one's tricky. They'll hit coming up. Opponent cuts to one side, and then I try to go to the other side when they do, but I'm just too slow. I need to aim my point on my body better, and that means I need to take not a passing step. Here I defend coming up the same way, but this time I kind of pull it into yield. and they're forced to retreat. Flat hit. And now we're off camera. Check the mirror. Long pass. Manages to snipe my glove through my crossguard. You'll see that I'm struggling to deal with this person's attacks to the other side. They're just really good at sniping the arms, and I'm not good at parrying those other side attacks. Turning my hips will help. Yeah, tough. Let's see what blue does. Coming up here, blue will manage to defend, counterattack, and then counterattack a second time. As he tries to go to the other side, he simply cuts through his defense. Bam, bam, cut. I would consider that more of a counter cut. Coming up here, blue evades a parry. And honestly, if he just covered the thrust, it would have been perfect. But instead they double. Coming up, I will make a poor counterattack defense. I will cut up at my opponent. They will defeat my cut by cutting up from Finestra. On that rising cut, they catch me in. Because they countercut me, I would either needed to cut the other side to counter their counter, or to just defend. And once again, we double because we both don't attack the line. Here you're going to see a lot of just whiffed cuts. Honestly, I should have yielded and escaped. If you whiff a cut like that, just yield and run away. Unless you think you can defend. Some good point work here. I managed to nail the point work and I get a clap. Wow. Someone really liked that. Coming up, I catch my opponent trying to sneak in Finestra. A lot of point work, no contact. Here they're going to try and sneak in, and I just cut them anyway. I yield out. I did the correct thing, they did the suicidal thing. Incoming cut to the hands, I see it. Very messy. But I managed to get a hit without getting hit. Teacher's telling me to work with distance more. I should have disengaged the cuts again like I did before. After disengaging the cuts for long enough, they eventually just double the measure and strike my hands. So this is actually quite interesting. My teacher has some feedback for me. Basically, when my opponent is cutting at me, I'm actually lifting my sword up to expose my hands, when in actuality, I need to simply maintain just pointing at a sword. I'm curious what that issue is coming from. I might post an image here of where my hands are going. And what he's seeing is that, yeah, I could just be collecting the hits, but I think I'm trying to go wide or up to in order to catch it. It's very strange. Here I just get leg sniped. I do something that I shouldn't be doing though, which is I point my tip very, very down, which is really bad. Right here. My tip goes very low and I shouldn't do that. And I get leg sniped. We know how to deal with leg snipes. You just pull the leg back and hit him. Here I do the correct action, I just failed to yield in time. That's it. Coming up, I'll get hit in the elbow because my yield fails to cover my arm properly. Yield more forward, basically.
No, I'm not. You say it. Okay. I thought I was. Huh? We're just gonna work you out there. Okay.
Coming up, I'm going to get a gorgeous yield cut. We're just going to trade cuts, but I'm going to yield his counter and counter it. Cut, yield, cut. Textbook. We both managed to recover from a whiffed cut to each other. He cuts low, I cut normal. And then I yield his counter, and then he stops my cut. Just good stuff. Coming up in the next pass, I'm just going to do the wrong counterattack. I'm going to perfectly parry and riposte, but I don't cover on my riposte, so I need to go to the other side next time. Instead, he just kind of gets like a flat touch on my head. Classic hand snipe coming up. He's just sort of checking the measure and seeing if he can get my hands. He's going to do it again, but I'm going to pull my arms back. You can see in the guard I'm further back, so when he cuts, we spin around and we hit each other. Apparently I got him first. Yay for me.
This time I do manage to stop their cut with the proper thrust. Oop. And then I cover and run away. Good stuff, me. I think on the hit coming up, they managed to, like, clip my hands, but I get this giant cut to their head. Not sure what the tick bump is there. The tick, I think, is me getting hit in the glove. No idea. This is going to be pretty textbook. I'm going to parry. They're going to try and counter. I'm going to yield and cut. It seems to be really effective as opposed to Volta Stabile. Dud. Basically just moving my sword to the other side. Coming up, I narrowly missed the first cut. But we get a trade, and I get an enormous hit on the head. Still a bad double. I should have defended. Honestly not sure what the hit is here. It looks like I parry sideways, but he might have just kind of clipped me with a pull cut on the way out. It doesn't look like a great hit or anything, just kind of wrestling. Just some decent point work coming up. Trying to get in. I try to yield cut, but I think he manages to countercut my yield cut. Coming up, I do the correct action, but my yield is too fast into the cut. I should have waited for contact on it. Here you'll see me get another really good yield cut. Yield cuts seem to be really effective against these cut the other side types.
Sorry, that was like, I went from like...
Also, just a giant yield cut can be really dangerous, so be careful, y'all.
Sorry. Last 3 turns. Thank you.
The more I experiment with these yielding cut actions, the more I find success. They seem to be really effective against cutting the other side, especially when they're your forte to forte. Coming up, my opponent will just walk into my point. I'll maintain line control. And so I get that. I even cover the cut on the way out. But once again, cut to the arms on the other side.
If you want, feel free to grapple. Okay.
Coming up, you're going to see me do something really stupid. I'm going to walk forward and approach without my sword on the line. And I'm going to get blasted in the face. And that hit so hard, I felt dizzy for a couple seconds.
Really ring my bell. We'll see if I have a concussion
Here you're going to see me escape a grapple. I'm going to cover really high, and then I'm going to run the fuck away.
Good high cover. You're getting out.
As well here, I will manage to get my arms out of the way and cut when I leave. Turns out by inviting him to grapple, I'm making things harder for him. Funny. Even though I do decently cover here, I give him my back, which you should never do. So I shouldn't be silly like this and just turn away from my opponent. But it was the last pass, we were memeing. So, let's get to some conclusions. First and foremost, when the opponent's kinda close, yield cuts are really effective against people who defend you and then try to cut the other side. Yield and cutting will defeat that really often unless they have the room to escape. And if they are at measure larga, or at like distance 3, I'm going to call it, then you will usually get the hit and you will be safe. It's really effective. The second thing I'm noticing is that I'm not good at using point work to attack. And I need to practice doing that. Third thing I'm noticing is I'm good at yielding to my left side and cutting to the right, but I don't think I'm good at yielding to my right and cutting to my left. So I'm going to make an exercise to practice that. And of course, the practice for disengage in point work and fighting in point work. So those are my 2 exercises coming up, is 1, attacking in point work, and 2, attacking in yield cuts.